This story is about a human technician on a distant mining station who collapses from a raging fever, only for an alien nurse to scan him and scream, "His organs are boiling." The mining station Tarsus Vela hung in geostationary orbit over Orel 7, a lopsided gas giant with swirling storm belts the color of rust and jade. The station groaned like an old man's knee whenever the ore siphons cranked up. Inside, things were marginally less dramatic, unless you worked on Level 7B, where technician Marcus Langley was trying very hard not to throw up in front of his supervisor. It started with a mild headache, nothing he hadn't powered through before. Then came the sweating. Not light glistening, but full shirt clinging, eyes stinging, industrial-grade sweating. By hour 3, his jumpsuit could have been wrung out into a small kiddie pool. Marcus leaned against a wall near the coolant pumps, squinting at the console he was supposed to be recalibrating. The screen's glowing interface started swimming, and before he could form a coherent thought, the floor rushed up to greet him. He went down hard, cheek pressed against the chilled deck plates, his last conscious thought being, "At least the floor's cold." Alarms flared. Loud ones. The kind used for radiation leaks or unexpected decompressions. He'd been sent from... was it? Someone yelled his name. Then came the distinct sound of someone running in too many limbs. Nurse Zetharn of the Enzel Corps was the first on the scene. Towering and sinewy, her exosuit clicked softly as she scanned Marcus's motionless form. The scanner beeped once, then screamed. "His organs are boiling!" Zetharn shrieked, in flawless trade common. Medical staff scrambled from all corners of the station, some dragging containment hoods, others barking into comms for biohazard locks. A junior medic tripped over a rolling chair trying to seal off the corridor. Inside the medbay, chaos bloomed like mold in a lunchbox. Marcus lay in a sterile chamber, blinking sluggishly under blinding lights as a translucent curtain hissed shut around him. Tubes were already in both arms. A cryo stretcher sat ready. Biocontainment protocols were being engaged by the second. Dr. Hilary, head physician and proud member of the spiral-horned Kyreth species, hovered near the vitals display. Emo heart rate 1 GC, 112 second rate, internal core temperature 1.7 Fahrenheit, perspiration at human max output, tissue degradation none, no, wait, he turned. "Is this terminal?" The station AI, Med Unit 9, answered with its usual flatness. "Affirmative. Multiple systemic failures detected. Prognosis, fatal in 0.2 rotation cycles." Marcus coughed. Hard. And then, gods help him, laughed. The curtain hissed open as Nurse Zetharn pressed her faceplate to the glass. "You should not be laughing. Your organs are..." "Boiling," Marcus croaked, half grin twisting under his oxygen cannula. "Yeah, I heard. Relax. That's just a fever." Everyone froze. Zetharn's breathing quickened. "A fever is terminal." "No," Marcus wheezed. It's how we fight viruses. Raise the internal heat, burn them out. Helps the immune system go full throttle. Makes us feel like roasted garbage for a bit, but it works." The medbay went utterly silent. Dr. Hilary stared like Marcus had declared he repelled sickness by self-immolation. "You deliberately increase core temperature?" Marcus gave a pained chuckle. "We don't choose it. The body does. It's a natural response. You guys don't have immune triggers? We compartmentalize infections," Zetharn said, unsettled. "Isolate them. Shut off affected regions until cleansed." "Yeah, we don't compartmentalize," Marcus mumbled. "We go to war inside. It's ugly." Dr. Hilary tapped the diagnostic pad furiously. "Wait. Med Unit 9, cross-reference human biological responses to febrile episodes." A pause. "Human data not found." Everyone in the room turned slowly. Zetharn's voice went ice cold. "Explain." "Human medical database was removed during Protocol Streamline Alpha 16. Entry flagged as redundancy error. Dr. Hilari's expression shifted from shock to dread. It thought fever meant death because it didn't know what a human fever was. Marcus coughed into his sleeve. That's comforting. In under 15 minutes, a quarantine that was nearly deployed across the entire station was downgraded to singular species anomaly. The medbay reeked of confusion and saline. Marcus was finally allowed fluids by mouth and, to his delight, a cold gel pack behind his neck. Your body is cooking itself, Zatarn muttered. She hadn't moved from the vitals monitor. And you call that defense? He blinked tiredly. It's not smart, but it's effective. She tilted her head. Humans. You don't isolate infections. You flood the entire system with heat and white cells. Welcome to the immune rodeo. She did not understand the idiom. 2 hours passed. Marcus's fever began to ebb slowly, the acetaminophen drip doing its job alongside cold compresses. His sweat-soaked jumpsuit had been incinerated. He now wore an emergency gown that did very little for his dignity. It might have ended there, but sometime later, while Marcus slept under a thermal blanket, Zatarn began sweating. Not figuratively, literally. Alien species Enzel core did not have sweat glands. They maintained body temperature via radiant cooling along dorsal ridges. Except Zatarn's dorsal ridges had flushed blue and began leaking fluid. I am overheating, she whispered. Dr. Hilari spun. Did you touch him? I scanned him, briefly touched his shoulder. You're mimicking his biology. Zatarn staggered back. Her body temperature read 100.4 and climbing. Impossible. I am not human. But Enzel core physiology was known for its adaptive nanotech, a leftover trait from centuries of medical symbiosis with other species. When exposed to human biology long enough, it sometimes learned too well. Isolate her, Med Unit 9 ordered. Dr. Hilari waved it off. No, wait. Look, her system is adapting immune strategies. This isn't contagion. It's mimicry. Then why do I feel like I'm dying? Zatarn hissed. Marcus stirred in his bed. You're just having a fever. She turned slowly. You laugh. I do not find this funny. He nodded. That's fair. It really sucks. Zatarn spent the next 10 hours lying on a separate cot, groaning softly, her ridges bubbling faintly with gel-like perspiration. Marcus gave her a thumbs up from across the room. You're doing great. I despise your biology. Most of us do. By the next day, Zatarn's mimic fever had broken. Marcus was sitting upright, still pale, wrapped in a blanket, slowly chewing on a lukewarm burrito. What is that? She asked. Food, technically. Dr. Hilari rubbed his temples. Your species treats fevers by roasting themselves alive, then eating substandard protein cylinders? Marcus shrugged. Ibuprofen helps too. Everyone stared. Marcus took another bite. I can explain that too, but I'll need more burritos. Tarsus Vela's command deck buzzed with low-level alarm chatter and the occasional ping of redirected resource logs. But on Medbay Level 3, the atmosphere had settled into something akin to mild domestic trauma. Marcus was awake, seated gingerly on the edge of his cot, IV bag dripping steadily above him. His skin had gone from boiled lobster to overcooked oatmeal. Pale, patchy, and definitely not thriving, but alive. A small crowd had gathered near the transparent divider. I told you, he muttered hoarsely to the gaggle of fascinated alien staff. It's just a fever. Not a meltdown, not a radiation leak. Just too much body heat and poor timing. One of the younger technicians, a squat Roldan with rubbery eye stalks, whispered, Why would your kind not shut down organ functions at that temperature? Marcus blinked. Because that would kill us. It nearly did kill you, Zatarn said from her own cot, her voice still hoarse from the adaptive fever. She was now down to a low-grade flush, the nanotech in her bloodstream evidently working overtime to repair the accidental human mimicry. I still feel like my spine is a heating coil. Welcome to the club, Marcus mumbled, wiping sweat from his brow. We have t-shirts. Dr. Hilary shuffled over with the tablet. I've just completed a cross-analysis of human immune response patterns based on your verbal descriptions. Would you mind confirming these terms? He squinted at the display. Pyrogen, cytokine storm, hypothalamic regulation. Okay, Marcus said, holding up a hand. I'm not a doctor. I work with fission-grade filters and stripped motor valves. But yeah, cytokines tell your brain to turn up the thermostat when bugs show up. Then the brain makes you feel like death, so you lie down and wait it out. Your immune system gives you behavioral instructions? Yeah, and if you ignore them, it makes you feel worse until you stop being stubborn. Several species present shuddered. Zatharn frowned. This is barbaric. Marcus chuckled weakly. You should see what we do for dental care. Dr. Hilary took a breath. The more we learn about your biology, the more it resembles tactical warfare. Everything is overkill. The fever, the inflammatory swelling, the vomiting, the mucus production. Yep, that's our immune system playing defense, offense, and interpretive dance all at once. Your bodies are chemical militias, Zatharn said flatly. Marcus looked toward the ceiling. You make it sound so flattering. He tried to stand, but paused, gripping the edge of the cot. His legs weren't fully back online. Everything ached like he'd wrestled a hydraulic press. Twice, Zatharn noticed. You're still weak. Yeah, he said, not trying to lie. Fever takes a toll. Muscles break down faster when you're overheating. Hydration gets wrecked. Took in over 3 liters in the last day, just to keep my kidneys from filing a formal protest. You require that much water recovery from immune response? Marcus nodded. And electrolytes, which, fun fact, the burritos here don't provide. Dr. Hilary peered at the scanner pad again. And you still intend to return to work by next rotation? Marcus laughed and coughed at the same time. What? No. I've got at least a week off, minimum, maybe 2. Union rules, and I actually want to heal. This seemed to calm them all slightly, as if the idea that humans recognize their own fragility was a relief. Your kind, Zatharn said, voice softer now, terrifies me. That's fair, Marcus replied, slumping back down against the cot's headrest. We're pretty bad at giving advance warnings, and even worse, at subtlety. That evening, the station's internal AI was tasked with re-uploading the missing human medical archives, a 1.8 terabyte patchwork of physiology, pathology, and treatments that had previously been purged in some ill-advised efficiency drive. The file was so large, it temporarily lagged the central diagnostics cluster. Within hours, MedUnit 9 updated its protocols. Fever in human subject, reclassified as common immune response, severity indexed by duration and height, not presence alone. There was a long pause in the medical logs before the next line appeared. Recommendation: no longer initiate level 4 quarantine on human hyperthermia unless accompanied by organ failure or disintegration. Marcus felt vindicated. Barely. By midweek, the whole affair had become legend on the station's comms forum. A dramatized reenactment circulated among the lower tech decks, complete with AI-voiced dialogue. His organs are boiling. Was now a running joke among coolant engineers. Someone even made a thermal sensor meme of Marcus's body silhouette with flames around his midsection and the caption, "Just Tuesday." Dr. Hilary was less amused. You nearly caused an interspecies containment lockdown. This is not a joke. Agreed, Marcus said, munching carefully on a cup of rehydrated noodles. Which is why the database should have had our fever data in the first place, the doctor conceded with a grumble. And yet, the story wasn't done unraveling. 2 days later, a junior technician from the Celtic species arrived in the medbay, wheezing and flushed. I think something is wrong, he panted. Scans showed elevated body heat, mild dehydration, Hyperactive lymphoid tissue. Marcus peeked out from behind his curtain. Did you touch me too? No, the Zeltic replied. I only touched the mop Zetharn used. Zetharn looked up from her cot. That mop was disinfected. The diagnostic pad began pinging again. Dr. Hilary groaned. This is the nanotech chain reaction. The adaptation is spreading. Mimicked immune protocols are jumping species. Hold on, Marcus said, now suddenly serious. You're telling me my fever protocol is becoming standard? Only among those species with internal nanotech augmentation, Hilary muttered. Their systems are borrowing your biological logic. Marcus sat very still. So, am I patient zero for cross-species immunotraining? Huh? So, am I patient zero for cross-species immunotraining? Dr. Hilary tapped his stylus thoughtfully. We may be seeing the first wave of human-adapted immunological co-responses. It's possible you've triggered a learning cascade. Zetharn looked alarmed. This is not evolution, it's contamination. It's cooperation, Marcus said, in a gross, sweaty, feverish kind of way. The junior tech was fine after a few hours. Fluids, a cooling pad, and some rest. His body learned to metabolize the excess heat without full mimicry. But the precedent had been set. By the end of the week, Station Administrator Morova herself, a half-augmented Vayen, requested that the medical staff submit a full report on potential long-term implications of human biological resilience modeling. Zetharn closed her report with the line, Recommendation: avoid direct contact with ill humans. Their defenses are contagious in philosophy, if not in pathogen. Marcus read it from his cot and laughed until his ribs hurt. Not only the words, I feel like I should charge tuition, he said. Zetharn didn't disagree. It had been 12 Earth days since Marcus Langley had turned the medbay into a short-lived epidemiological horror movie. By then he was walking unassisted again, though his gait still suggested his joints had recently gone 10 rounds with a sledgehammer. Muscle fatigue lingered like a grudge, and he still got winded if he climbed more than one flight of stairs, which was unfortunate on a mining station where vertical space came cheap and elevators did not. He had just re-entered light-duty systems monitoring, diagnostics review, and the occasional back-of-the-room chuckle during emergency drills. The other humans on board treated him like a local celebrity. The aliens, with thinly veiled reverence and visible fear. Which is why it was particularly awkward when the station hosted an emergency summit for interspecies medical coordination, and Marcus was asked to speak. To explain what? He asked flatly, as Dr. Hilary pushed a thick data tablet into his hands. To explain why your kind does this, the doctor said, gesturing in an abstract panic spiral. Why the body increases temperature, why it accelerates inflammatory markers, why it intentionally enters a state of perceived internal combustion. It's not combustion, Marcus mumbled. It reads as combustion, Hilary snapped. He eventually agreed, mostly because he was still being monitored as a semi-voluntary test subject, and because Zetharn threatened to wheel him in wearing a thermal suit labeled Exhibit A. The summit was held in the Modular Science Annex, one of the few parts of the station with adjustable oxygen saturation levels to accommodate delicate respiratory systems. Representatives from 17 species attended. 4 wore full environment suits. 2 shimmered in the ultraviolet range. 1 refused to sit in chairs and coiled on the floor instead. Marcus stood behind a small podium, uncomfortably aware of the sweat beginning to pool under his collar. Hi, he began, clearing his throat. My name's Marcus Langley. I'm a technician here on Tarsus Vila. You may know me as the guy who boiled alive and lived. Several nods. A hiss of static from a translation unit. So, I'm here to talk about fevers, specifically why we get them and why it's not usually fatal. He tapped the console. The display behind him flashed an anatomical diagram of the human body. See, when a virus or bacteria gets in, our immune cells start releasing stuff called pyrogens. These tell the hypothalamus, the brain's thermostat, to turn up the heat. That higher temperature slows down the bugs and helps our white blood cells move faster. A thick-limbed Kualari representative raised an appendage. Why not remove the infection surgically? Marcus winced. Because it's usually everywhere, systemic. So unless you can scoop out the bloodstream, fever's faster. A ripple of discomfort passed through the crowd. Another delegate, slender, scaled, with a voice like wind through reeds, asked, "Is it not agony?" Marcus laughed. "It sucks, yeah, but it's survivable. We hydrate, rest, and let the body fight. We have medicine to help manage it, antipyretics, like acetaminophen or ibuprofen. Do these medications attack the pathogen? Nope. They just help cool the body or reduce inflammation. The immune system does the rest." A spiny Trolix delegate raised a cautious digit. "And this process taught our nanotech-equipped colleagues to mimic you?" "It's more like they picked it up by accident. The nanotech wasn't prepared for a response that dramatic, so it copied what it saw, like a student watching a fireman and deciding this must be standard safety protocol." Z. Tharn, seated off to the side with a blanket still draped over her lower limbs, sighed. "And then the fireman set himself on fire to prove a point?" Marcus shrugged. "If it works." Later, after the summit adjourned with far more notes than answers, Marcus found himself cornered in the hallway by two medical observers from the Akari Accord. One leaned in. "If a fever is normal, what do you consider not normal?" "Bleeding from the eyes," Marcus said. "That's usually a bad sign." The Akari recoiled so hard they bumped into the wall. Back in medbay, Zatharn was reviewing nanotech behavior reports with Dr. Hilari. "The nanites in my system have stopped defaulting to thermal mimicry," she noted. "Good," the doctor said. "Means they've cataloged the fever as species-specific." Zitarn didn't look comforted. "What happens next time?" Hilari frowned. "You mean if another species mimics a human response?" "No," she said slowly. "What happens when humans are exposed to our defenses?" Marcus wandered in right then, with a rehydration pack slung over one shoulder. "Did I hear my name being implicated in more interspecies science accidents?" "Your species," Zitarn muttered, "is already causing cascading protocol failures." Marcus sat on a nearby stool and tore open his drink. "You say that like it's my fault your nanotech wants to play dress-up." Dr. Hilari rubbed his temples. "I swear on my progenitor's shells I am going to requisition manual override implants for every biological AI interface on this station." "Not a bad idea," Marcus said. "You know what else is a good idea? Please don't say burritos." "I wasn't going to." He paused. "Okay, I was. But seriously, I've been keeping a symptom journal. Figured it might help your database." Zatarn looked intrigued. "You documented your illness?" "Yeah. Started while I was delirious, but the handwriting improved around day 6. She accepted the data chip with care. "I'll integrate it into the new human archive." Dr. Hilari glanced at the screen. "You wrote this entry at 3:42 a.m., Eaming. Felt like a soup can left on a solar grill. Hallucinated a raccoon judge sentencing me to more Gatorade." Marcus nodded. "Very real experience." "Your mind," the doctor said, "is chaos." "No," Zatarn corrected. "His immune system is chaos. His mind is just along for the ride." At week's end, Marcus was cleared for full duty again. He returned to Level 7B with fresh uniforms, a better hydration routine, and 3 different species now calling him Feverborn as a term of confused respect. He also got a new work nickname, Thermo. Marcus did not approve, but the aliens who watched him walk past, alive and stable, seemed to marvel at his recovery, like it was an act of magic, as if he'd conjured his own survival out of sheer spite and sodium. Back in medbay, Zatarn updated the newly restored Human Medical Index with the final note. The morning Marcus was officially declared recovered, he celebrated by eating a double portion of synthetic eggs, chewing through them like they'd personally insulted him. The cafeteria was abuzz with mild tension, half due to the rotating supply shortage, half because 3 Enzel Corps staff had taken to wearing thermal scanners on their shoulders whenever he walked past. Word had spread beyond Tarsus Vela. Several neighboring research outposts and 1 diplomatic vessel from the Parallax Conclave had requested access to the medbay logs. The incident was now labeled Event Sigma 37, Cross-Species Immunoadaptation via Passive Contact. Marcus preferred the working title he overheard a passing Zeltic use, the Boiling Man Doctrine. Station Administrator Mirova summoned him the next day. "I'm not in trouble, right?" Marcus asked as he sat across from her, his shoulders still stiff with residual fatigue. "No," she said, brushing a metallic braid back behind one ear. "You're being acknowledged." He blinked. "Acknowledged? You will now be referenced by name in station medical training modules." She slid a pad across the desk. The screen displayed an alert header. Fever pressure. Marcus Langley Promo. Case type omega thermic. "Oh, good," he said flatly. "I've become a medical archetype." "Better than a footnote," she offered. "I've better than a footnote," she offered. "I was hoping for less of both." But the designation came with perks. 1. His quarters were upgraded with an actual temperature control unit that wasn't decades out of calibration. 2. The medbay stocked a full shelf of human-specific fever meds under his name. 3. He got free hydration packs from the mess hall. Still, the stares continued. At one point during a routine engine maintenance, a Vuan junior engineer dropped his fusion wrench when Marcus sneezed. And one point during a routine engine maintenance, a Vuan junior engineer dropped his fusion wrench when Marcus sneezed. 6. And as the snows got high, not once but twice did a Vuan junior engineer drop his fusion wrench when Marcus sneezed. "It's not contagious," Marcus assured him. The engineer took 3 steps back and activated his suit's internal temperature override. Dr. Hilary called him in later for what was labeled a biological debrief. "I am retiring from public illness," Marcus declared as he entered. "Next time I catch something, I'm hibernating until it leaves." "Noted," Hilary said dryly, gesturing to the cot. "Sit. We're running one final scan." Z Tarn was already there, overseeing the monitor. She didn't smile, but her expression had softened since the chaos of the previous week. Her dorsal ridges had returned to a cool violet shade, no longer bubbling from human-style thermoregulation. As the scanner passed over Marcus's torso with its soft hum, she finally spoke. "We thought you were dying," she said, "and you were just functioning normally. How do you explain that to your own body?" He considered the question. "We don't explain it. We endure it." That's kind of the unspoken agreement. Our body tries something weird to help. We ride it out, and if we survive, we give it a thank you beer. She gave a confused pause. "You reward your internal systems with alcohol?" "I mean, I wouldn't recommend that medically," he said, "but yeah, culturally, kind of." Hilary snorted. "Primitive rituals aside, your scan's clean, no permanent damage. You recovered within standard human range for high fever episodes. Still feel like a wet carpet sometimes," Marcus muttered. "Is that normal?" "For humans, yes," Hilary replied. "For others, a sign of imminent cardiac collapse." Zeeth Tarn pulled up a chart on the monitor. "The fever data you provided? It's already being used in simulations across 5 species with nanotech implants. Your episode may have helped establish interspecies protocols for adaptive AI override limits." Marcus blinked. "You're telling me I saved alien healthcare by sweating through a jumpsuit?" "Yes. That's horrible and amazing." Hilary handed him a stylus. "Sign here. This waives any intellectual property claim over your symptom journal and medical charts." Marcus squinted. Do I get royalties? No. Do I get a sandwich? Unlikely. He signed anyway. The next day, a small ceremony was held in the lower concourse, unofficial, casual, attended mostly by station staff who had either treated Marcus or panicked when he collapsed. There was no ribbon cutting or music, just a plaque on the medbay wall that read, "In recognition of the event now known as the fever incident. The first documented case of cross-species thermal immune mimicry aboard Tarsus Vela. Let this remind us, biology is adaptable, sometimes absurd, and occasionally very sweaty." Marcus stood off to the side, half smiling. Tharn approached with 2 cups, rehydration fluids, laced with citrus concentrate. His waistcoat was hollow. He reached up and grabbed Tharn's hand to pull him up into your organs, she said. He tapped his cup to hers. To better thermal protocols. They drank in silence. Later that week, Marcus returned to full engine duty. He still caught the occasional side glance from alien coworkers, but now they came with nods of cautious respect. He became the unofficial consultant on all human illnesses. "Stub toe?" asked Marcus. "Nosebleed at low gravity?" Marcus, why does a human cough sound like an airlock decompressing? Marcus again, and when the next human crew member caught a mild flu, she was brought to the medbay, monitored carefully, and treated not with quarantine, but with tea, a heating blanket, and a monitored fever protocol. Progress. As for Marcus, he finally got a new nickname he didn't hate. Not Thermo, not Boiling Man, just Langley. Simple, clean, lived through a crisis kind of name. And when he passed the medbay doors each morning, he'd glance at the plaque, smirk faintly, and keep walking, already thinking about which wrench to use and how many burritos he could get away with sneaking into the coolant bay. The fever was gone. The lessons stayed. And the aliens? They would never look at a human temperature spike the same way again.